Hello and welcome to another Imperator Rome Dev Diary walkthrough thingamabob. Again, we're going to be doing 3 Dev Diaries, 25, 26 and 27. So, without further ado, I think we should just crack on into it. So, starting off, we've got the Dev Diary which came out on the 19th of November with national ideas. So, I've read through these Dev Diaries already, and what I would like to say just before I go into this is it says here that they're called national ideas, and of course the game can call them whatever they want, just like they call the little provinces what people who play EU4 would call provinces, they call cities, and then the states are called provinces, right? Something similar is happening here, where national ideas, as people who play EU4 would know them, are every country gets their own set of national ideas that aren't shared with anyone else, and you don't get to pick them. Whereas in Imperator Rome, it seems that national ideas are ideas that you pick, and you get 3 of them. So yeah, it's interesting. So there are 36 different national ideas that you can choose from. They'll all be listed in the diary, and they are. I won't go through all of them because there's 36 of them. They're going to cost 50 civic power. Some are available at the start, and others have to be unlocked via advances. So basically, technology like Thessalocracy here requires martial advances level 6. Elite soldiery requires martial advances level 12. As a rule, tribal governments can have 2 national ideas. Republics and monarchies can have 3, but there are exceptions. Every government in the game comes with a base specific bonus to that government. There are secondary bonus for each government, but that you will get if your country has ideas picked that correspond with what is expected by the government form. So as you can see here, we're looking at Carthage, and they want 2 civic and 1 oratory ideas. No military ones whatsoever. If they have all 3 picked of any type, even military, they get 1 bonus. If they have 3 ideas picked that correspond with what they want, so 2 civic and an oratory, then they get a second bonus. What these bonuses are going to be different for every single country, and I don't know what those are. Oh, sorry. Rome needs 2 military and 1 civic, but again, you don't have to choose 2 military and a civic, and I believe these can also change depending on who you have in power. Don't quote me on that one though, because I believe I have seen these change in not the dev clash, but the preview streams that Johan did with Rod a few weeks ago, or months ago at this point. But I'm not certain on that, so don't quote me on it. Now, national idea bonuses are of course still subject to change. Currently the national ideas in the game are, and I'm just going to scroll down through these slowly-ish, so if you want to read any of them, you can pause, but some of these are, they're just bonuses. They look like quite strong bonuses. I like the build slots +1. That's going to be quite nice. Province import routes +1 is also pretty good. Pop growth +1.1%. Maybe that could be really good. Wrong culture group happiness penalty reduced by 15% seems quite strong. Sacrifice to the old god, sacrifice to the regular gods, cost -33%. That's basically stab cost, because that's how you gain stab. Rule of popularity gain seems quite nice. Monthly tyranny going down is quite good. Monthly loyalty, yeah, some decent and interesting stuff there. So now we're looking at Northwest Africa. They already talked about Carthage in a previous Dev Diary that I covered yesterday. The time of recording, it's yesterday. I don't know when this video is going to go up. Probably still going to be yesterday. And they mention it here, but I'm not sure whereabouts it is. But one of the interesting things about North Africa is Carthage had everything up, I think even Mauritania, I'm not sure about that one though. They certainly had Massilia, I'm going to get these two confused so freaking often. The blue mass and the brown mass. They had both of these as like feudatory, vassal, tributary things, some kind of subject. And when Syracuse attacked Carthage, the blue guy, the blue massa, decided to side with Syracuse after Carthage previously thought them as loyal. However, when Syracuse actually landed in Africa, they didn't bring a very large army, and the blue massa immediately turned again and supported Carthage again. Carthage would remember that Massalia, that's perfect pronunciation, of course, betrayed them. And I assume there's probably going to be some kind of events relating to that, because I don't think the relationship between these two is going to be all that strong. The Sicilian invasion led by Agathocles, whatever. Some of the Carthaginian allies would happily support an invader, Massalia. Also, the Carthaginian Empire is so thinly spread that it can be hard to respond quickly and adequately to an invasion, something that Rome later found out to its detriment. So, moving on. Tunisia. Unlike modern day and also EU4 times, Tunisia is actually incredibly fertile. Like you can see all the farmlands here. This area, this region was just abundant with grain, with growth, with life, with all that kind of good stuff. It was huge. I don't even know what caused this to change to become the area that we know it today as. I mean, shit still grows there, but nowhere near as fertile as it is, or as it was. Lush agricultural landscape is a great exporter of grain and agricultural goods, as well as base metal spices and Tyrian purple dye. The inland is in the hands of Carthaginian governors, while the coastlines are controlled by the many cities that make up the Carthaginian sphere of influence. So all of these, sorry, let's get my mouse centered over so it can make it big, just like that. There we go. So all of these little guys here are feudatories, tributaries, vassals of a kind. I'm still not sure exactly what the differences between those are, but I have seen when Rome goes to war, it calls all its little vassal dudes in. I assume the same is going to be true for here as well, but we're going to have to wait and see on that one. I think maybe it's in a dev diary that I've missed, but if I find it, I will bring it up. So yeah, all of these little dudes. I imagine that Carthage is probably going to want to annex them all eventually, because I mean, city-states tend to be quite good individually, and if you have them, then it's, you know, it's a good thing. So yeah, you're going to want those, I think. So the starting country is Carthage. It's not the oldest Phoenician settlement in the region, but it is the most richest and the most influential. Indisputable leader of the Punic world, and all of the Phoenician self-ruling cities are expected to obey and contribute to the common armies and navies. So one thing that Carthage did is, instead of having a huge standing army like Rome did, what it did was it would expect troops from all of its little tributaries and vassals. And also, because it was hugely wealthy, it bought a lot of mercenaries. So I assume that's probably going to be the same here. They're going to be very, very rich, and they're going to want to use mercenaries. So that's going to be an interesting, different play style than what we can expect to see with Rome. We've got Utica, is a feudatory of Carthage. We've got Curcuane, feudatory of Carthage. Hadrumentum, feudatory of Carthage. Leptis, feudatory of Carthage. Thapsus, feudatory of Carthage. And Acola is also a feudatory of Carthage. So I think that's all of these guys. Literally all of them are feudatories. Moving down south to Emporia and Tripletania. Both groups' cities send their tribute to Carthage together. While the region is as lush and rich as the Carthaginian heartlands, these states are still relevant as exporters of fish sauce. Fish sauce. Cool. Purple dye and salt. Close to Tahara, its oases, they are more subjected to raids from the peoples within it. And we will be going over raids in this video, because that's one of the dev diaries that is contained here. Moving on, we've got Tripletania, which is a feudatory. Emporia, a feudatory, and Musulami, which is a tribal vassal. What the differences between feudatories and tribal vassals are, I can't say, but when I know, you'll know. Numidia. So we have here Massicilia, Isle. So yeah, tribal kingdom, modern Algeria and Tunisia. Massilians have, for a long period of time, provided the Carthaginians with troops and military resources for wars. Recent invasion by Agathocles, they switched sides, however, and joined the Greek invaders. So actually I was wrong, it wasn't the blue guy, it was the brown guy. See, I told you I'd mix them up. I told you. I told you. Then they would switch back, incident that Carthage would not forget. They are tribal vassal. Massiasilia is a tribal kingdom in modern Algeria, historically a rival of the other Numidian kingdom, Massilia. But unlike them, the Massilians are not aligned with Carthage, making its capital the former Carthaginian trade post in Siga. The Massilians trade directly with nearby Iberians and Mauritanians. They are independent and unaligned. So this guy, not allied with Carthage, but this blue guy, sorry, the brown guy, is a tribal vassal. And then we've got Iol, which is another one of these little city-states, and they are a feudatory of Carthage. Now, next up, we have Mauritania, and there's not much known about Mauritania at this point anyway. We only, as they say here, not much known until later on in our era when it's interacting with the Numidian states. So at the start, Mauritania occupies what is today Morocco. Expansion without coming into conflict with Carthage will be hard. They control all ports in the region. Population allowing, there is however a region that is not settled by any state. And again, we're going to be talking about settling states very, very soon. So yeah, decent dev diary, nothing too out of the ordinary. I think the big things, of course, are these national ideas. And yeah, they look pretty decent. So, moving swiftly on. Now we are having a look at economies and power conversions. So this one I'm a little bit less fond of, let's say. So, main way you have to control your finances, Imperator, will be through your economic policies, naturally. They don't really go into this too heavily, but you can see here, instead of having sliders, we've got buttons. So the try buttons are back. So we've got you know, a low, a medium, and a high maintenance for your army, for your fleet, for your forts, your wages, your tributaries, your commerce, and your taxes. I assume there's going to be negatives and positives for all three of them, or maybe the center isn't going to have negatives and positives, but you know, army maintenance at low, lower morale. I mean, army maintenance at high, higher morale. Same for the fleet, probably same for the fort. Paying tributes is also in there. I assume that's probably going to get a try button as well. But I think the main thing that I want to talk about here, oh, there we go. There's the the bonuses and the negatives are right here. I'm not going to go through them because there's a huge amount of them, but one thing I do want to talk about is the wages. Every office or job in your country has a defined wage, and you can't see it from this screen. I did remember seeing it in, I think it was the Rome stream, or maybe the Egypt stream that Johan did with Rodrigue, and basically, if you are a general, you get paid a wage. I like this system a hell of a lot more than I like the system in EU4, where you can only use 2 generals total, or if you have some ideas that let you get more, you can have more. If you've got 25 power projection, here you have another general slot. Otherwise, it's going to start costing you, you know, magic points. Having, you know, as many generals as you have characters to become generals, and just having to pay them a wage, I so much prefer it. By just leaps and bounds. I think that is a huge, huge just step forward. As well, things like governors, I believe, are also going to have wages. And if I remember rightly, this is me just going back to what I remember from the dev clashes and stuff. Like different elements of your government, like your consul will have a wage, and all the different levels in the government, basically. All of it's filled by characters, and they will all have a wage. So at the moment, I have no idea what country that is. Is it Egypt? Yeah, no, it's definitely Egypt. All right, so Egypt, interesting flag. Obviously I haven't got used to the flags yet, but Egypt is currently paying almost 6 ducats in wages. Should I be calling it denarii or dinar? Should I switch over to using dinar? No, it's a ducat. It's a ducat. Anyway, so yes, wages are a thing, and I am very, very much in favor of them. Something I'm not so much in favor of, though, is this here, convert currency. So you're going to have a very bad trade malice thing here. But if you're strapped on cash, you can spend some magic points to get cash. If you are flush with cash and you need some magic points, you can spend some cash to get magic points. The trade is not going to be good, so it's not like a one-to-one and, you know, straight back again. You're going to get less cash. So if you spend 50 military points on cash and then immediately turn that cash back into military points, you ain't getting the 50 military points. But even so, even if it was exactly that, and you did get those 50 military points, I still don't like it. I don't like convert currency. However, I think that obviously everything in this game is so absurdly moddable. I think that's some space in the UI that can be used for something a lot better. So there's that. I mean, it's got its ups and downs, of course. Anyway, moving on, let's go past these policies, as I already sort of talked about that. Deficits. So, should your country at any time find itself running a deficit, result in a number of bad things, these can be seen at the bottom of the screen under the balance itself. Some of these events will help you turn your economy around, but none of them will come without a high price to be paid in some form. That's a lie, actually. I keep going back to these streams because I watched them very recently. The Saxonia stream, he was in like a 600 ducat deficit. There was one event that was just, here, have 40 ducats. So some of them, not none of them, some of them will come without a high price. I mean, I guess the price is being in a deficit in general. As well, not said in this dev diary, but I did see it in another one of the streams. If you are in a deficit, you get, I think it's negative 0.1 loyalty, or maybe 0.5 loyalty per month from all of your characters. Whether that has changed since, I don't know, but that was or is a thing. All right, moving on. Power conversion, we talked about that. I don't like it, really don't like it. But it's whatever, I don't have to use it. So now we're going to be talking about Lower Egypt and Cyrenaica, although we didn't talk about regular Egypt. Or I guess we kind of did. Anyway, Egypt. So Egypt is an interesting case because, of course, everything by the Nile is incredibly fertile, some of the most fertile land in all the world, and you're going to have huge, huge populations. You're going to have, you know, a lot of wealth, a lot of centralization, a lot of civilization, and then you go away from the Nile Delta and the Nile itself, and you've got harsh, horrible deserts. And you can just see it from this this image as well. Again, I'm just gonna bring it back. The map is fucking gorgeous. I love the map. It's huge, huge improvement over the previous games. I love it so much. But yeah, lots and lots of fertile stuff. Very, very dry, very inhospitable, low population. So I'm thinking you're gonna want to really defend this area, like with everything you've got, because if you have some of this sieged, one siege is enough to, you know, steal population. If you're raided by barbarians and they manage to siege, I don't know, Dionysius, well, we'll talk about this one here, Tecrits or whatever, you lose population there, and I assume the higher the population of the place that's being sieged, the more population you lose. So there is that. Egypt's home to a cultural and religious world that is far older than those currently fighting over its soil. Yeah, what the starting area of Egypt is like is obviously it's ruled by Ptolemy, which was Alexander's, like, one of his oldest friends, a hugely influential general, and Egypt is the richest area in probably the world, right? He's certainly the richest of the Diadochi, and he allied himself with Seleucids against Phrygia. And Antigonus in Phrygia was a lot more bold, let's say, than Ptolemy was. Ptolemy did do some good stuff. I think he captured Cyprus at some point as well, or maybe he owned it at the start and then Antigonus captured it. I know Cyprus swapped hands. I can't remember which way it went though, or when it went. But yeah, Egypt and Seleucids versus Phrygia is going to be a conflict that's going to happen in pretty much all of your games, because somewhere in here, maybe it says, I don't know, I don't know. But Egypt and the Seleucids start allied with one another. And I assume if there's a rivalry system in the game, then Phrygia is going to be their rival, like 100%. So Ptolemy is Greek, and a lot of the upper class population, I assume, is going to be Greek. But a lot of the lower classes are going to be Egyptian and support Egyptian gods. So you're going to have a very interesting internal game if you're playing as Egypt. So I think that's going to be quite interesting. The lighthouse is in there as well, which is great. Oh, there we go. At the start of the game, Egypt is allied with the Seleucids, and it has no navy. I assume that's because Phrygia has sank it. Because, of course. And then we've also got Cyrenaica, and like I say, that's all the dudes in here. Nabatea and Judea, I think they're going to be in the next dev diary. But yeah, let's talk about Upper Egypt and the Nubia. You know what? That's what confused me. I was like, Lower Egypt, but we're talking about this part, which is in the north, which is Upper Egypt. No, this one's Lower Egypt, and this part is Upper Egypt. Like further south is Upper, which just confuses me, but I'm sure there is a solid reason. Probably it's the upper part of the Nile. The Nile flows down, maybe? I don't know. But anyway, as we progress up the Nile River itself, it remains the main center for cultivation, habitation, and transportation. I really hope there is something to do with transportation with rivers like these. The Nile, the Danube, probably the Rhine. I really hope that troop transport speed is increased when you're going up these, rivers. Just because you're gonna, I mean, would armies really use the boats to go up and downstream? I don't know, actually. No, probably not, actually. I don't know. I'm conflicted. I really want the rivers to be doing something like that, but it wouldn't work for armies, and it would work for communication. But communication isn't really a thing until Mayo and Taxes get their hands on it. Anyway, moving on. We got Kush, we've got Blemia, and we've got Dodecashonios, something like that. So in the Dev Clash, Kush was played by OMFG Blondie and Egypt by Denote, and they allied with one another. Not so much in history. Kush was like a lot weaker than Egypt, but still very, very dangerous, as Egypt's main power base is in the Delta, and Kush is raiding the base of the Nile. And also, I mean, you're Egypt, you really don't want to pick a fight with somebody who can piss in your river and the river flows into your area, right? Just bad idea. Anyway, moving on. Crete. This is something that's going to be really interesting. I know one group of people, the Battleground, they do quite frequently like Battle Royale kind of games in EU4, where every single player is picking a nation in Japan. And then they fight it out until somebody comes out on top and they win, blah, blah, blah. They do it maybe once every couple of months or whatever. And they're very interesting games. I think they're probably going to be doing the same here. So how many countries have we got here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Maybe this is one country. I don't know. Maybe this is one country and then this is another one. Yeah. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 countries. 9 players fighting out over one island. That's going to be quite interesting. This is also the source of Cretan archers, of course, judging by the name, which were like really famous archers in this period of time. The Romans made quite heavy use of them, and they were often found in many armies, not just Cretan armies. So yeah, mercenary Cretan archers, very, very common. So I imagine they're probably going to have some kind of bonuses to archers, maybe? Not sure, but I would assume so. So the starting countries, we've got Knossos, Gortina, Eleutherna, Cydonia, Polyarna, Tara, Ierapetra, Chrysos, and Litos. So yeah, interesting stuff. Main points to take away from this dev diary. Of course, the economics, wages, great. These try buttons, they could work. They're fine. I would prefer a slider, but it doesn't really make too much difference. Wages, fantastic. I love it. Convert currency, not so much a fan of. However, let's move on. Apologies there. Right, so now is the interesting one, because we're going to be talking about pup migration, pup movement, barbarians as well. So all of the places on the map that are not owned by anyone, but pups still live there. So yeah, that's going to be quite interesting. So as you can see here, you can click on a province, find your population, and you can move them to other provinces. Also convert them. I think this is a one-click, boom, you're converted. Which I'm not too much of a fan of, but I mean, it doesn't make too much of a difference. Carthaginian Sicily has large Carthaginian upper class, while the freemen, slaves, and tribesmen are generally more mixed with local Siculian and Siciliote cultures. So yeah, we've got every single pop in the game has its own religion, it has its own culture, and that's kind of interesting. That's a lot more depth than I was really expecting. I would assume that kind of thing would really, really slow down the game, but apparently not. Apparently that's totally fine, and I'm quite happy for that. So, pop movement, this is the interesting one. So, pops can move between cities as a result of scripted content, such as events. Examples can be natural disasters. We saw this in the Rome playthrough. I think it was the first stream, the first exploratory stream. What's called the volcano near Naples erupted, and it lost a bunch of population, and the population started migrating. It was unhappy. It was horrible. So, natural disasters, volcanoes on the map. I think Sicily has some volcanoes. I mean, you can see one right here. Expect things like the volcano at Pompeii, that kind of thing. It's going to be, blowing up in your face and doing quite nasty stuff. Tribal groups feuding and migrations, as well as when a city falls and some of its population is enslaved. Again, I talked about that when I was talking about Egypt. If you siege something, you have the chance of taking some population. Much like the kings of the era, most of the time, if you want a certain pop to be transferred to a specific place within your empire, you need to move it yourself. Because Imperator is one where the government intervened in pop movement. So a pop can be moved from one city to an adjacent city, adjacent across a sea zone, or any other owned city in the same province. So a province is an area, basically, for 20 civic points. If you are a slave, then it's 5 civic points. So yeah, that's an interesting one as well. I think it probably goes into it a bit later, but if you have a city, so one of these little dudes in a province, if you have 10 pops in one city, you can colonize an uncolonized province next to it. So it looks like probably if you are anywhere, I mean, Carthage is probably a good example, because in the center of Corsica, no, this one's Sardinia, the top one's Corsica. There are a few uncolonized provinces. So if you want to move some of your vast amount of slaves to Cestis, and then move one of your more educated pops into Ualatina, the pop, this one, then this will now be owned by you, and it will also start growing population. So moving slaves in order to colonize is probably going to be a good strategy. I don't think slaves can colonize. I would assume not. But yeah, that's going to be interesting. Right. Next one. Right. So civilization value, as mentioned in an earlier dev diary, civilization value is a rating that exists in all locations on the map and represents the level of infrastructure and urbanization of the location. So civilization value is really important for technology. Lower civilization value nations don't generate as many tech points, and so you go up in your advances much slower. It's funny, in the dev diary, not dev diary, in the dev clash, the 3rd episode, I think, someone took a screenshot of Saxonia's advances, and their civilization value was so low that they would get their first tech advance in the year 8,000 something. So yeah, you really want some civilization value. However, if you've got high civilization value, your tribal pops will be unhappy. So what you want to do is upgrade your tribal pops into civilian pops, and then your civilian pops will be happy with higher civilization value. But if you upgrade too soon, then the civilization value won't be good enough for the civilian pops. And I assume like the middle ground is going to be where you don't want to be, and then you want to be either to one of the extremes. That's just the way I read it. I don't know for sure. So colonized and uncolonized land. As you can see, everywhere here has population. Every single place has population. So what you want to see is, you know, if you are one of these regions here, say you are Bastarnia, this looks like a really good population area. You colonize that with one pop, you get these pops. These are now your pops. They'll be obviously, not obviously, but they might be the wrong religion, they might be the wrong culture, and you might want to change that. But that's a good way of growing your population, is by like migration. So, from the interior of Sardinia to central Germany and Ireland, there's a lot of land that is uncolonized and seemingly empty on the political view. As long as you have an adjacent city of 10 pops, you can send one of these pops into an uncolonized location. This pop will claim it for their home country at the cost of 1 you pay for moving pops inside your own land, so 20 civic points. Again, I'm not sure if slaves can do it. I hope not. I don't think you should be able to colonize somewhere with slaves, but we'll see about that. This will turn the uncolonized location into a city under your control, but will not change the culture, religion, or type of any of the pre-existing pops. I assume there's going to be slaves. Well, we've got tribesmen, I forget what you are, freemen, and then citizens, I believe. So this guy's got 1 citizen and 3 tribesmen. So he's going to be happier with a lower civilization rating. Civilization rating here is 30, I want to say. I don't know if that's high or low. I would assume low because it's, you know, it's not colonized, so this should have low civilization. But we shall see about that as well. Your country with high civilization level, the local civilization rating will now start to climb towards your country value, making it more suitable for freemen and citizens, but most likely making the original population of tribesmen quite unhappy. Potential ways to counter this is spend power to convert them into another type, or adopt the governor policy for civilization effort, which changes the pops of your tribesmen over time. So yeah, it looks like you've got your country with a civilization rating, and then every province has its own civilization rating, and this civilization rating will try and get to your country's civilization rating. I believe it says somewhere that I can't find that it will grow quite slowly going up to the civilization rating, but if you get a province that is a higher civ rating than your country's civ rating, it will drop quite rapidly. I read that in this dev diary somewhere, but I'm not sure where it is. Now, northern Syria. Again, just completely switching gears. We're talking about populations and stuff, and now northern Syria. Fair enough. Syria is in the hands of Antigonus in Phrygia, and the capital of Phrygia is also in this area, Antigoniya. Interesting region, very, very fertile. Again, very different to what we've got in today's modern world. Yeah, it's going to be an interesting region. He's not really concerned with the freedom of non-Greek cities in the region. It's not home to any subject city leagues like Anatolia and Greece, so we're not going to have like lots of little city-states. That Phrygia seems like the kind of empire that a player would build, rather than, you know, a Carthage who has lots and lots and lots of little city-states owing them tribute. Phrygia is more about, I want my name to be as big as possible. I was trying to emulate Alexander in that way. But anyway, got some starting nations. Come again? This one. And Bambitsi. This one here. You look very precarious. I think this is going to be a very difficult nation to play. So you are a tributary of Phrygia, and then this guy is... doesn't say. State predates Macedonian conquest, but sworn fealty first to Alexander and then to his successors. He's sworn to the successors, but it doesn't say which one. Then in Phoenicia and Upper Syria, this is basically, you know, the Levant, another really fertile region. I don't know if it's changed. You generally don't hear about this region being fertile, apart from in Israel today, where the Israeli government has, you know, done a lot of irrigation development. So that's why Jerusalem's area is quite fertile, but this is just naturally fertile. This is very interesting. The fortified city of Tyre is around here. I'm not sure where exactly up here. I think maybe it's some like here-ish somewhere. But the city of Tyre is one of the most amazing, interesting sieges I think I've ever learned about. Basically, Tyre was a city, and off the coast of the city was a huge fort on this little island. And basically, when Alexander was marching his way down through the Levant, he came across Tyre and demanded it surrender. They obviously said no. They felt they were in a hugely strong location. There was no way that this army that didn't have so many boats was going to be able to defeat them. We could just sit out here on our little fortress island and do nothing. Alexander, being a complete genius that he is, decided that that wasn't going to stand, and he was going to basically build himself a bridge out to the fort, drive his siege engines over the land bridge that he built, and take the fort by force. And personally, I find that to be fucking incredible. And what I want to show you really quickly is that this land bridge is still a thing today. If I can just pop this over here, this is the fort and this is the land bridge that Alexander built today. It's still here today. That's fucking phenomenal. Sorry, I know I'm just rambling on about something that isn't part of the game, but there is a video that I will link in the description that goes over this. But really, I find it to be just incredible. So much history in this game. Man, who would have thought out of a history game? Anyway. Been the site of many famous sieges in the past. Yeah, you don't say. It's also the region in which the huge Antigonid fleet of Demetrius was built before it set out to invade Greece and destroy the Ptolemaic navy off the coast of Cyprus. Indeed, it did. So, starting countries, we've got Arodos, we've got Byblos, and we've got Sidon. And then Judea and Nabatea going a bit south. Again, very fertile region. Starting countries of Samaria, we've got Judea, which is ruled by hereditary high priests. So I assume that's going to be a different government form, some kind of theocracy. It's going to be quite interesting one, I think. I'm not sure if this is a Jewish kingdom. I don't know if that's a thing. I mean, Jews certainly existed in this time period. I'm not sure if this was a Jewish kingdom or not. It doesn't say in this dev diary, but I think it is. I'm not sure. I'm not 100% certain though. And then Nabatea, which is an Arabic trading kingdom. So, interesting stuff. And then we've got the Levantine and Arabic traditions. So, again, if you're in this area, you can choose your traditions. You get to choose between the Arabian path, the Egyptian path, and the Greco-Levantine path. But again, if you are Arabian, you can choose the Greco-Levantine path. If you are Egyptian, you don't have to choose the Egyptian path. You can choose the Arabian path. Doesn't matter. You get a starting tradition of land attrition -15%, which I think is going to be very strong. I've seen a lot of people in dev clashes taking huge losses to attrition, so that's going to be really interesting. The Arabian path seems to be a lot about cavalry, so hostile attrition is not cavalry, but we've got camel offense, camel light cav, heavy cav, desert combat bonuses, then more triremes, training camps, then more cav, and then more cav. The Egyptian path, we've got light infantry defense, more boats, fort defense, allow military colonies. Don't know what that is yet, but I assume it's like, you know, using your military to colonize a an uncolonized province instead of not. More boats, camels, manpower, light infantry, and then the Greco-Levantine path, heavy infantry, light infantry, heavy infantry, phalanxes, so heavy infantry, merc maintenance, boats, monthly general loyalty, and then heavy infantry again. And that's it. So, lots of infantry stuff, very mixed, and then lots of cavalry stuff. And yeah, interesting stuff. So the interesting parts about this dev diary, obviously the pop movement mechanics, which I find to be okay. I guess if you are going to have mana points in your game, then it's fine. 20 civic power to move a pop. It can probably get quite expensive, but at the end of the day, it's not that much. Just move slaves instead. But anyway, that is the dev diary. That is all I've got time for today. I've been going for 40 minutes. Holy shit. Oops. Never mind. Hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, feel free to click the like button. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. And I will see you possibly tomorrow for another 3. I'm not sure yet, but we'll see. Bye-bye.